Okay, yes, we have enough to start.
All right, very good. We'll call the meeting, Water and Sewer Board meeting to order. Brenda, would you take a roll for us, please?
Sure. Board Member Boriski,
Present.
Board Member Mercier. I see her. Caitlin, are you?
Present,
Okay.
sorry. Was away from the.
Board Member Ridley,
Present.
Board Member Roth is just signing in. We can come back to him. Board Member Freeman. Board Member Anderson is absent. I'm sorry, Council Member Anderson. Council Member Woodward.
Present.
Mayor Sierra.
Present.
Vice Chair Hubernick.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Present.
And Board Member Roth. Board Member Roth, can you verbalize your presence for us?
I am here.
Okay, thanks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Next up is approval of minutes from the June 13th meeting of this board. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
In a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
John, I need
Brenda,
to abstain.
Okay, so noted.
Thank you.
Motion still carries. Brenda, do we have anyone for the public forum tonight?
We do not.
Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5. New business. And Peter, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, board. I've got a quick presentation today for essentially the next phase of what we're going to do from a long-term perspective for our solids handling process. And so that's our more permanent solution, different than the temporary solution that we've been employing right now. So our solids handling overview is essentially, this is when we treat raw water, there's particulate in the water, we pull it out, we pull that from the filters and other parts of the process, and we collect it in the south reservoir on the property. And it's been building up in that reservoir for many years. We have a solids handling facility that's just south of that reservoir on our site that has a belt filter press that I think I've mentioned before was a repurposed fruit press that the city bought many years ago. It used to press fruit and fruit juice out, and now it was repurposed and has been used for many years to dry out the solids. And that's the aspect of this process that we want to modernize and move forward with a change. Next slide. So essentially, if you look at this, you can see how this works. So what we've been doing for the past couple of years is we've hired BioVelocity, which is an outside contractor that has essentially a centrifuge on a trailer. They dredge the south pond there. So the one where you see where it says wash water. So if you look to the left, all that gray is where the solids have built up for years and years and years. There's actually a curtain wall that runs north-south that separates that where it says wash water from where it's gray. And you want that wash water piece to be clean because that decants to the north into the north reservoir. And then you can see where it short circuits right back into the plant. So as we get a significant amount of solids in the south reservoir and they start to pushed over that curtain wall, they're in what's supposed to be the clean area. We end up with this circular loop of pulling solids out, depositing it in the south pond. The capacity's not exceeded, but we're over capacity of what it should be in solids. And then it just circles right back in. So by doing the work that we've done over the last couple of years with BioVelocity, pulling out a significant amount of solids, drying them and hauling them off in our two projects that the board has seen and recommended for approval both last year and this year. We're gaining ourselves some time in terms of the ability to implement a longer term solution. This presentation today is for the longer term solution. So next slide. So that longer term solution is essentially a centrifuge. So you can see the picture on the top, that's the belt filter press, which is a technology that's used. We're looking to install a centrifuge. Centrifuges are pretty common standard practice. Like I said, the contractor themselves employs a mobile centrifuge on a trailer. At South Platte Renew, we've been utilizing 3 centrifuges to dewater solids over there for 2 decades, and they just run. They're all they do is spin and they run, and so they're pretty resilient pieces of equipment. And so, from a long-term perspective, what our plan is to replace the filter press with a centrifuge, replace the dredge that is on its last legs that we have that pulls the solids out and pipes it to the centrifuge with a new dredge. And this first step is designing all that to make sure we have the right long-term system. So we went through a process where we developed a preliminary design and then went out to the street to have consultants bid on providing that final design. We did a conceptual design. So this is to provide that design for the project. We had 2 project consultants bid on it. Hazen and Sawyer was the lowest bid. We negotiated the scope. They had more extensive solids of the process evaluation in the scope, and we're just going to take more of a simplistic mass balance approach. And if something changes, that's where those supplemental services will come into play. If everything works out from our loading expectations and our sizing expectations, we don't anticipate using that additional money. We're also recommending a 10% staff managed contingency, which is brings the total contract authorization to $262,592. Questions from the board?
Not seeing any hand raised yet. Okay,
I see Caitlin has a question.
interesting. It's not showing up for me.
No, I didn't hit the button in time.
Oh, okay.
I just raised my hand.
Oh, even better. Sorry.
So my question is as far as like, will we still have to be removing those solids physically from location, or is that built into this?
Yeah, no, so the haul off is still something that we'll have to do no matter what. So this is just, what this does is this takes the place of us hiring that contractor with the mobile centrifuge to dredge and pull the solids out. Once we have our permanent system in place, our plan is that over the next 5 years, plus or minus, that we can recover the full capacity of that south settled pond. And then as we move forward from an operations perspective, we'll pull out solids at the rate that we're putting solids in. The reason why they built up for so many years is because the belt filter press operation for years was not pulling out the amount of solids out that was going in. We're going to change that operationally so that the south settled pond actually functions predominantly as a pretty clean reservoir that we're keeping up with that pulling out of the solids. And then we still have to truck it no matter what.
Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you. I believe I saw Brown and Caldwell's. They're the engineers, right?
No, Brown and Caldwell also proposed on it. And if you recall from the PowerPoint, their price was significantly higher. So we had Brown and Caldwell and Hazen and Sawyer bid on it. And we chose Hazen and Sawyer because their pricing was so much lower.
I got it. I was thinking that, I didn't realize those were the two bids and one was obviously lower, but I was thinking they were the engineer and they were higher than the actual product or what we're putting in. So that was my question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have both Brown and Caldwell and Hazen and Sawyer working on several other projects throughout the utility. It's just that was the bids that were received on this specific project.
Yeah, got it.
Any further questions? Okay. There we perfect. Can I get a motion to approve item 5A as presented?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, 5B. Believe Josh, you got it from here?
There we go. Good evening, Chair and Board. I'm presenting tonight on Colorado Analytical for our sampling services. Next slide, please. So the utility takes upwards of 2,400 samples per year. These are samples that have to be delivered to a certified lab. And all the samples that we take throughout the year are generally taken from dedicated sampling stations. Next slide. As you may remember, last year we were designated to be a large utility that required us to take additional samples than from what we had to take previously. Some of those samples that we have to take additional are the PCR samples, the disinfection byproduct samples, and samples for the new lead and copper rule as well. And most of you may know, we're also in the process of our corrosion control study, which also requires additional samples. Next slide. So we've chosen Colorado Analytical Lab as a optimal source. The biggest reason that we chose them as optimal source for this to take all our samples is because they were the only local lab that provides all the required testing that we need. They also will submit the results directly to this PDPHE. They also have no cost sampling models offered as a 10% discount, and this total contract is to not to exceed $130,000. And with that, I will happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Not seeing any. All right. Can I get a motion to approve item 5B as presented?
I move.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. 5C, I believe we moved to Sarah.
So, good evening, Chair and Board. Tonight, this next item is the lead reduction program. There's some city code amendments that we would like to propose to support our lead reduction program. So here's our rough schedule for the next really year and a half or almost 2 years since we started the program in March of 2023. We contracted with Hazen and Sawyer to be our program manager. Tonight we have Steve Price on the call. He is the Hazen representative that is managing this program. So he's available for questions if there are any after the presentation. So an overview of what we're looking at schedule-wise for the next year and a half. Through the first 100 days, so since March through now, Hazen and Sawyer have taken a look at our city code, evaluated our policies related to language in the code that allows staff members or a contractor to access property to verify our lead service line material. So that's what we're bringing tonight. We've got amendments to the city code that we are going to propose to City Council in August that will support our lead inventory development, which is a requirement of the lead and copper rule as administered by the EPA. I'll skip to some of the section at the end here where we've got a line item for October 2024, where that's the regulatory deadline for service line inventory and development of a lead service line replacement plan. With the efforts started tonight and approved through council, we will be well ahead of that deadline. We anticipate that our lead service line, or inventory development will be complete by the end of this year. And then in January and March of 2024, we will work with the state to finalize our lead replacement plan program, and then begin construction of our programmatic lead replacement starting next year, which we are planning for the next 10 years. So the physical verification of lead service lines is a requirement that Hazen will use for machine learning. So we need to identify where the lead lines are throughout the service line or service area, but we can accomplish that with physical verification of up to 500 homes. So that is our plan to begin this fall and continue through the end of the year. CDPHE is currently taking general guidance on the physical verification from Michigan, which requires at least 3 points of verification along the service line. So looking at the picture on the right, along the lead service line, there'd be 2 potholing locations on either side of the curb stop, and then there'd be a physical verification of the lead service, or excuse me, of the service line entering into the home. So with the code amendments that we're recommending tonight, customers would allow a contractor to pothole on their property as well as enter in their home to verify the service line material as it enters. Customers would be asked to just sign an acknowledgement that that we asked them for this verification, and then a Brita filter picture would be available upon request for those that do have lead service lines. So the code amendments are required to meet federal regulations. So like I mentioned, we need a inventory developed by October 2024, and it allows city staff or contractors who access private property to for visual inspection and verification of the service line material. It clearly defines the customer side responsibility of the line and adds some definition to support our lead reduction program, as well as define unauthorized use of water, which is somewhat nebulous in code currently. We do anticipate we will have a future suggestions to change code that will establish financial conditions for the lead reduction program and define city and customer responsibilities regarding lead service line replacement, but we need an inventory before we can suggest those changes. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Right, do we have any questions? Mayor Sierra?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Sarah. So has this inventory started?
Yes, so it has started with Hazen's inspection of our records that we have as utilities. So those are service order records, positive lead service line material identification that we've recorded in the field. And so that's a part of that. And then we are trying to tie that to a certain dates of when construction happened, because there's also, there was lead service lines installed prior to a certain date, just in general, that was the construction practice at the time. And then that was banned, and beyond that date, potentially they were used, potentially they weren't. So we have tied some of that to our inventory already. But it's a smaller number that we can verify with those 3 points of verification. We really do have to go through the potholing process and the visual inspection of the property with the current guidance from CDPHE.
Okay, so this potholing and accessing private property, it can't be done unless they get written consent from the property owner, right?
So we have an acknowledgement form. I mean, if people absolutely say no, you cannot enter a property, we will look for another location to do that potholing. But these changes do allow us to access the home.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to figure out, because actually there's been neighbors near me that have been asking what type of work the city's doing. It may not be done to this. They're just worried about damage to either the retaining wall or just their property overall. So they want to be notified before any type of work begins. And so that's what I'm trying to understand.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we would notify. So part of our communication efforts is a public meeting in September to announce the program, to provide this information to customers. We will have several communications with the specific, up to 500 homes that we're planning to pothole, with what that process looks like, and an understanding of what, we would put it back to place, whatever we disturbed.
Okay, last question, and then I'll let some of the others ask questions. For the people that have reached out to me, there's like, I want to say it was yellow spray paint on their yard. Do we know if they're being notified why spray paint is in their yard? If we're marking a water line, sewer line, whatever it happens to be?
So yellow paint indicates natural gas. So that would be an Excel marking. So I don't know.
I can't remember which color they told me, but I'm just kind of curious. So
if we have I just did this for a project that I dug some piers in my front yard. And so what happens is you call 811 and then we send out someone who essentially marks the line to the meter, to the point of the meter. And so I have a meter that's 3 feet off the back of walk, and they essentially marked it to the meter, and then they write something on your lawn. They'll do the same thing for the sewer, but they don't locate the actual individual service lines. The gas will identify it all the way to the meter. If that's happening outside of a request that they've made, it might be related to some other project that is a larger utility project.
Okay. Thanks, Peter.
Jim?
Thank you. On the customer side of where they're responsible, when we replace our line, will we be offering through our contractor or staff or whatever to replace their side for a cost, or are they totally responsible for getting their own contractor and replacing?
So a part of our funding strategy with the SRF loan that we are currently applying for, we will be required to replace the entire line. So there are some additional code amendments that we will make regarding that financial responsibility. We won't be able to make some of those decisions until we know the inventory, the total number of lead service lines, and understand what funding is required to do that. So Peter, I'm sure you have additional.
Yeah, so this is the next round of policy discussions that we have to have with the board and council, which is who pays for what. So right now, the way it stands is the city's responsible for the line up to the meter pit or to the curb stop, and then from the curb stop to the house is the homeowner's responsibility. So Denver Water's approach to this was They just funded a $700 million program to remove all of it for all of their customers, because the rationale is that gets the lead out of the system, out of the distribution system. If you remove all the lead, then there's a benefit to everybody who's on that system if you remove the potential exposure point. And so, but not all cities are handling it that way. Other cities are handling it in a way where the city takes care of it up to the point of the meter pit or to the curb stop, and then puts the responsibility on the homeowner. And that can be done in many ways, you know, where it's either a lump sum assessment to the homeowner, or it's the kind of thing that, you know, we do some kind of a financing payback over the next 4 or 5 years on their bill. All of these things are policy discussions that we need to have with both the board and council at some point this fall. The thing we need to do first is we need to understand what the scope of the problem is, and that's what the inventory tells us. If we have 8,000 lead service lines, we have a significant lift here. If we're on the lower end and we're around 4,000, then we have more flexibility in terms of how we fund it. But ultimately, we'll be presenting those policy directions and guidance, and which utilities have used which approaches, and make a recommendation to council based on what we can afford and what we can fund and how that funding is generated.
Thank you.
I'll slide in a question. Sarah, just to confirm, from what you mentioned earlier, is this the right way to think of this, these changes? These changes give the city the right to go onto private property and do what we need to do. While there's notification, it's not technically permission. I think you said you'd probably accommodate someone's resistance by trying to find another property that satisfies, but at the end of the day, this amendment is giving the city the right to do what it needs to do with respect to lead service lines. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Vicki, do you want to add any additional discussion on that?
Sure. It gives the city what we need to do with respect to inspection. It's not addressing anything with respect to replacement at this time.
Perfect. I just want to make sure everyone's kind of understanding what this is doing. The notification, it's not. This is the city's having to claim or assert a right here. Let me see. All right, can I get a motion for item 5D as presented?
I'll move 5D.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don, will you make that 5C to correct my mistake?
5C. Yes.
Thank you very much.
5C.
All right. And can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? All right.
Is-
go ahead.
Is this itemized within the notes that it's only temporary, and that as soon as this is all done, it goes away and there's no longer any need for access? Or does this stay permanent?
I think right now it would remain permanent through our proposed programmatic execution, which is at least 10 years. And so
is this narrowly defined so that there's no other purpose?
yeah, it's to identify leads. It's to identify the lead, the service line material. And correct me if I'm wrong, Vicki or Sarah, but it is pretty narrowly focused on access to verify the material of the service line.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Travis. Any further comments or questions before we vote? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Now we move on to 5D. I got a little anxious before.
Okay, that is me as well. So As recommended in the city's 2022 water efficiency plan, utility staff has been looking for opportunities to provide customer education about smart water use. And one of those opportunities is to become a WaterSense partner. So WaterSense is an EPA program, and it's a voluntary sponsorship program that is both a label for water efficient products, as well as a resource for education about smart water use. The EPA created WaterSense as a credible national brand with a strong and consistent water efficiency message. And they partner with water providers across the country. Local water providers that partner already with WaterSense are listed here. Denver Water, Aurora Water, Colorado Springs Utilities, all are WaterSense partners, as largest water providers in the state. So some of the benefits of the program, it is no cost to the city for participation. It provides us with promotional materials, such as public service announcements, fact sheets, brochures, any press releases, water efficiency messages that we can use to provide to our customers. We can post it on our website to really promote water efficiency. There are some requirements, which is why it is being considered by the board tonight, and then recommended for as an ordinance approval through city council that the city of Inglewood has to comply with. So those are, we have to report back to EPA how we're using this program. We have to adhere to the program guidelines, and then we provide additional information as requested by EPA, and then EPA then can promote Inglewood's use and participation of the program. So our recommendation is to become a WaterSense partner. It applies to our water efficiency plan, meeting that initiative to provide additional information and education to customers. And then it also fits in with our strategic plan for sustainability and infrastructure. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
I am not seeing any questions, any hands raised. All right, can we get a motion for item 5D as presented?
So moved.
Second, please.
A second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion
Opposed.
carried. Oh, okay. And Travis, was that you?
Yeah, is this part of the Agenda 21 system? I'm just not into, I think everybody is so careful. About 80% of people are so careful with their water. I'm just I don't know. I'm from Denver. We did the xeriscape and everything way back when, 30 plus years ago. I see it cropping up. I'm not so sure we need to align ourselves as a city with that. I'm not sold on it. So I'm just maybe a no, I'm not a no vote, but if I can suspend my vote, that's what I do. Does that change? Do you have enough votes for your whatever?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember the rules. I think there will be enough votes, to be honest, but if you, I don't think technically you should abstain if you don't have a reason. So voting no if you're not fully on board, I think voting no is the right answer.
Okay.
Until such time. Jim, would you like to jump in?
Yes, just as a discussion point, I was at the Colorado Municipal Conference a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, and I did a couple of these on water and what some of the cities were doing. And I noticed Aurora, Thornton, Westminster were all presenters and showing what they were doing and stuff. And they had what I thought were pretty successful plans and projects that were going on. So I know the room was pretty supportive of what was going on. It was pretty good program, I thought. That's it. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? All right. I'm sorry, we did take the vote. And I think it's safe to say motion carries. We had one nay. I think that's it. So no old business. And so moving on to staff's choice.
Okay. First up is we've identified a couple of overbillings, and so Sarah's here to discuss what those overbillings were, how her staff found them, and then what we need to do to provide a refund. And so I'll turn this over to Sarah.
Hey, so yeah, there were two significant customer refunds identified by utilities billing staff here recently. The first was a commercial customer account in the amount of $28,872.07. So back in March 2023, city staff was performing a follow-up inspection related to backflow compliance. And while staff was out at the customer's location, they located 3 meters, but realized that there were 4 meters being billed in the billing system. So that error had been in place, we'd been overbilling that customer since 2006. So the customer was paying for water use on a 4th meter that wasn't actually there. So according to state statute, utilities refund a billing error over a 2-year period. They don't go beyond that. So that results in a water fund, in a refund on the water usage of $15,222.62. And then a sewer service refund of $13,649. So those customers have been notified of the billing error. We are requesting from them information on how they'd like to see that refund, whether it's a credit on their account or we send them a check. So that meter that wasn't supposed to be there has been fixed in the billing system, and we are no longer overcharging. The second refund is also for a commercial customer. This one's much larger in the amount of $89,824.43. So in October 2021, the electronics for this customer's meter was replaced. And when this equipment is replaced, there is a dial setting that needs to be changed in the billing system for this size meter, which was a 2-inch meter. This dial was not changed, so that resulted in a overcharge for the water use by 10 times their actual water usage. So this account had been overcharged since November 2021 until a billing staff member identified the error in April of this year. So this setting has been fixed in the billing system and results in a refund for water usage in the amount of $48,565, sewer treatment services refund of $27,144. And because this customer is in the South Inglewood Sanitation District, there's another refund from sewer collection services in the amount of $14,115. Are there any questions?
John, you're muted. I think you said Ty.
I did. Ty, go ahead, please.
Sarah, is there any mechanisms in place that would flag when a bill is outside of the normal by a certain percentage? Do you have any systems in place or plan to implement any that'll flag these sooner in the future?
Yes, there are those systems in place, and the one that had the 4th meter that wasn't really there, that one we wouldn't have been able to flag. That was a field verification. I believe the other one, that one was missed. I'm sure it showed up on a billing exception list when that happened, because we would have seen this huge spike in the water use for that customer. it was missed. And so until it was then now identified, it didn't pull up on a specific report, but one of our billing staff was looking at that specific account and said, this looks really odd. And then they investigated that customer.
Perfect. And then a follow-up on that fourth meter. Was that meter supposed to be billed to someone else, or was it completely a fake meter in the system that got inputted incorrectly and was charging kind of a base charge?
Yeah, so the electronics for one of the meters that was installed, one of the three, was duplicated in the system. So it was this fake meter that, you know, didn't belong to anybody. But so the billing usage in, you know, meter 3 on that property was being billed twice, essentially.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I'm
Almost
sorry,
sounds like
I don't have
another.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I don't have an arm to raise in here. So
Okay.
may I ask a question, please? If nobody else.
Yes, you may, Marjan, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Ms. Sarah, what are the possibility of these happening? You mentioned that these are commercial, right, accounts. What are the possibility of these happening to residentials?
So there is the possibility for that. We investigate any call that we receive from a customer that you know, they feel that they've been overcharged. We send field staff out to verify their meters working and their electronics tied to their meters working. And then, as I mentioned, there's an exceptions report that if there's a large significant jump in water usage, that is also either a reread by field staff or again verifying the meter is working appropriately in the system.
The reason for my question is there is a Ms. Dickinson. I continuously, she expresses for years that there is a problem. Her readings is off, and I know Peter is aware of this lady that has this issue. And so I actually had a communication with her that she still have the problem, Peter. So I don't know how that could be resolved. If you could please maybe give her attention about this situation, because she continuously expresses that she has a problem with this, her bill.
Sure, I can provide an update on that too. And my understanding is that it's currently in her court because she's having her attorney review a document. So essentially, this is how this works: is she had raised an issue that she thought the May billing from last year was too high, and so we looked at it, confirmed that she has an older meter, and said, we don't have anything that can prove otherwise, but if we can change out the meter, we'll provide that refund. I think it was the average usage was around 2,000 per month, and in this one May it jumped to 7,000, which actually happens a lot. I mean, people turn on their sprinkler systems, turn on things, or have a leak or something, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. In this instance, because she raised the issue and said that she thought it was an error in the reading. We said, okay, but we need to get out and change out the meter because you have an old meter. We want to put in a new meter. In order to do that, we have to operate the curb stop. The curb stop is owned by the homeowner. And what we do is we provide a hold harmless release of liability when we operate the curb stop, because if we break the curb stop, that's the homeowner's responsibility to fix. It's not the city's responsibility to fix. She refused to sign that document. She acknowledged that her curb stop is already broken. And so we then went out there, we tried to figure out a way to switch out this meter and work with her. And it was the feedback I got from my field staff was it was a very contentious meeting. And so we've subsequently provided the document that says, if you hold us harmless, we'll come out and we'll switch out the meter. Once the meter's switched out, we'll issue the credit and the refund, because then we'll know that the current meter is reading properly. So we were trying to do that last summer, where a year on from now, it takes a lot of staff time to try and work with customers that are sometimes refusing to sign for the balance of the customers we need to protect as the city, because what we can't do is make the rest of the ratepayers pay for a problem that's an individual's problem with their responsibility, which is their curb stop. So right now, my understanding, and Sarah, please let me know if I'm missing anything on this, is the last notification we got was she was having her attorney review the letter, and that we were waiting for a response from her. I believe that's accurate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so that's where that stands. We're waiting for her to allow us to do the work that we need to do while protecting the city, so that we can actually get this fixed and then issue the credit for the 5,000 gallons that was used extra in May of 2022.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that you give your attention to this situation. Is there a place like the residents could go and look at like how much is a normal size comparatively to the number of the residents in that property that they use water? Is there a place that we can, like people can tell, if you're like a party of 4, family of 4, this would be the average. And then if your square footage of your property is this much with grass, that's how much water you use, so that people have like a point of reference, so they don't, assume like this is how much my usage is,
Yeah, I think there's probably some data out there that can be accessed. What I will say is that our new billing system that we should be rolling out here in the next few months will allow customers a whole lot more control and accuracy and instantaneous evaluation of what their water usage is. We're basically modernizing the billing system to help the customer understand their water usage and really dial in their water usage if they want to. So I think, Sarah, please chime in on this, that I think the normal usage on that meter from month to month is not abnormal from what we would expect to see out of a single family residence with only a couple people occupying it. So there was a spike that May, but it's not uncommon for that to occur sometimes too. And so we're trying to work with customers when we see something that's abnormal, but when we see something that fits the trend of what we normally expect, we don't spend, we have to go with what makes sense.
Thank you. I appreciate the knowledge. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Ty, you're up.
Peter, any chance that resident has a suspected lead service line and you could hit 2 birds with 1 stone?
I actually am not sure if they have a lead service line, but probably something we could check.
All right, move on to the next item.
Okay, the next item that we have is Chair, something that we've discussed, and I think the last time we discussed it was in January. We said we'd come back to the board on a periodic basis to see what the board's thoughts are relative to in-person meetings. And so it's July, and so we thought we'd bring this up again to see where the board stood on this.
Chair, do you mind if I just jump in real
Go ahead.
quick on this?
That'd be great, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Moore. So City Council did have a discussion, I believe it was last month, right, Jim? About asking boards and commissions to make them all hybrid, to allow for an in-person commission meeting, but also provide a virtual option for those that, schedule is too tight. So I guess we kind of made the case moot in a sense that, in the sense that, we would like to be back in person. So if anybody is able to make it in person as well, you know, that'd be great, but we will be providing an online option as well.
Perfect. So Peter, I think you said we can be ready for that next month, our meeting next month. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Mayor. That simplifies the discussion.
Yeah, it does quite a bit.
But yeah, we can be prepared and ready to go next month for a hybrid option. We'll find a location, probably at the Civic Center, to hold the in-person aspect part of the meeting, and then we'll just be set up for a hybrid remote option as well.
Perfect. All right, so that option will be in effect next month. So that was brief. Very good. Any discussion on that? Further discussion on that issue? Are we good? Oh, Ty, go ahead.
Do we need to change how we RSVP to the meetings in any way? So you guys are aware if we're going to be in person or virtual that week. Would that be helpful, or how would you like us to proceed there?
It's a
Brenda?
great question.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, I think replying with an email would be great, just to verify that you'll make it.
All right,
I think-
fantastic.
And looking to the future on this, we're initiating some work at the Allen plant to provide some more office space and some more conference room space. And when that project's done, I believe we're scheduled for April or May of next year. We could actually start hosting the water and sewer board at the Allen plant, which might give a stronger connectivity to the water system as a whole.
What Peter's not telling you is that his plan is that at the last 30 minutes of each meeting, we will go out and continue to dredge the pond until it's completely clean. So that's his real motivation.
We're gonna get there.
All right, all right, I think we're good. Next item.
I'm gonna turn this over to Brenda, the board and commissions training review.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So I'm not quite sure if you remember an email that was sent out in June. I'm going to resend it after this meeting, but the city clerk's office took the time to put together a wonderful packet and a video on training for our boards and commissions. And so they have requested that our board review the material, and in the lieu of time, I thought it would be better just to have everyone review this information offline, and then at the next meeting, if anyone had any questions, they could either email me or we could talk about it at the next meeting as well. There's like a 8-minute video that goes over everything. We can watch it during a meeting if you want, but I thought with these meetings going so long, we probably wouldn't want to do that.
Hey, I take offense to that.
Oh,